Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, welcome back. I'm your hostess, Kristen, and I'm with my co-hosts, Amber and Cindy.
Hello.
Hello. And I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
I'm sure you do. So today is our topic is kind of on note-taking, and it kind of stemmed off of our topic last week of annotating, which was probably inspired by Cindy's heavy annotating of her book, Anatomy of an Epidemic. So definitely check that out. I actually saw a video. I didn't get to mention it last week, but I saw this video on TikTok or something, and this lady was holding up her book, and it had like all these sticky tabs. And she was like, here's my annotating of whatever book, and I was like, I can do that. I was like, I'm allowed to do that. And then I was like, Amber. And she was like, oh, yeah, girl, it's a thing. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. And last year for Christmas, she gave me like this annotating kit. And I'm so excited to annotate
I forgot to mention that in the last.
Yeah. And I think the excitement for it comes from my love for note taking. And I never realized like why I enjoy note taking until I started, prepping for this episode today. And so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to like annotating too. So I'm really excited about that.
I like annotating too because it uses office supplies. I'm obsessed with office supplies.
Right.
Yes. And notes too. Note taking.
Well, I love note taking because you get to buy a notebook, and I have such a collection of notebooks.
Yes. So I have a question for you. Have you ever written something down and it stuck, and then you tried later with typing a note and it just disappears?
Oh, all the time.
They literally do disappear on your computer, but you write something down and you remember the color of the sticky note you wrote it on.
Oh yeah.
You remember the song that was playing when you wrote the note or whatever, but you could type 1,000 notes and not remember what you just typed a second ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was like, that is literally something that happens to me. And I was really curious about it because I've heard so many people say, like, kids these days aren't learning the same because they're typing their notes.
Yeah.
And
I like to make my students write down notes.
They have done studies that prove that you remember things better when you write them down by hand.
And so I was curious why. So I was doing a little bit of reading on it. And I was actually really shocked because I found that it's actually something... it's a stemming kind of thing for people like me, too. So, it's actually something that I've been battling with work right now because we're completely digital now. And I used to have, like, a full-fledged desk, like a cubicle with a little bit of privacy. And I had, desk drawers with filing cabinets, and we had extensive ways that we had documentation of reference materials that were paper. Right. And the papers that I had, would be maybe like a printout, and we'd have like a meeting and leadership would talk about, this new thing we're going to use. And here's the reference guide. And then oftentimes they'd slip it in like a page protector. And there would be space on that page that I could write notes.
Yeah.
And now every time we have, meetings, it's all digital. Instead of having like the printout slides, it's on a webinar or, group web call. And someone shares their screen with the PowerPoint. And then, it's left up to me to, discern like how I'm going to learn this new information. And oftentimes I think the easy route is, I'll just take a screenshot and save it in a folder, and then I have like folders and folders of screenshots, and everything going digital now. Even in passing, I may think of something, an idea that strikes me, and I'll put it in my notes in my cell phone. But then I have endless notes, and I feel like I'm just not retaining things as much. And that was kind of like what posed that question. Why is it the handwriting is better? So I know, like you said, you're more likely to, remember it. And so I know the answer is why now because I did a little bit of research, but I wondered what you guys thought.
I don't. It has something to do with the way it imprints in your brain, the part of your brain that it uses. But I don't. I've read about it, but I don't remember what specific parts. I'm sure you have that answer to that. Mm-hmm. But I have always been a handwritten. That was how I studied in school. Was I would take my textbooks and I would rewrite all of the key points in my textbook.
Mm-hmm. See, that's
making
how
my
they
notes
taught us to do. At least in my school, in my high school.
But I don't think everybody did it.
They taught us to do that. Like in our textbooks, we had to like read and annotate and take notes as we were reading on the textbook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And summarize. Especially for history class, they made us do that.
When I went to cosmetology school, I actually won awards at the state level for my note-taking of my cosmetology coursework because I had these huge notebooks full of notes that I took over the course of
I always remember
my
flipping through your cosmetology because your outlines.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like you were copying everything from the book. It was outline, because you would see the concepts, but not the explanations.
Right.
It was just the concept. So that just by looking at it, your brain is going like, oh yeah, remember those concepts. I remember
that. I remember what that page looked like when I wrote it down. It's like what you talked about. You remember the color of ink you used and what notebook you wrote it down. And I will do that, even just making, note to self here at the, I'll remember which notepad I wrote it on and what kind of ink, that I used. And I'll remember all of that. Mm-hmm. So when I go looking for that note, I know what I'm looking for.
You're like, it's on an orange sticky note in the green spiral. I remember it's on the left page by the flower I doodled.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way I am.
So what is the answer to that?
Handwriting itself, just handwriting in general, engages more of the brain than typing does.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it hits your memory centers, your language processing, your motor coordination, and your emotional association. And obviously, like you think about, and that emotional association is like remembering those things, like the song that was playing.
Right.
But the motor coordination actually was interesting to me because the motor coordination that you use to write is actually different than the motor coordination used to type. Mm-hmm. And that's also something that has been mentioned before about reading a book versus watching TV. The stimuli for your optic nerve is different when you're reading than it is for television.
Well, and I feel the same way about listening to audiobooks and reading on an e-reader or on my computer. I absorb far more when I read from a book than if I'm reading on my screen. I don't
for sure. Yeah.
I do not absorb as much if I'm reading on my e-reader or my computer.
That's why
e-readers
really
are for snack books, like books that
not important.
Yeah, that I'm just gonna fly through.
Like you said, you print it though. Like if they give me a PDF, I do not read it on my computer. I print it out unless it's just too many pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that way you can do things like make notes, which is exactly what I did on this one because it just had key factors, and then I annotated the notes. And you know what? Honestly, I appreciate my professors in college that actually, you have to thank them for taking the time to print out like the PowerPoints. The ones that just printed off like a PowerPoint and it was almost a blank slide.
Yeah.
And it just had like a title and then it was blank. I made better notes and understood the concepts far better than the ones that just gave me like a printout. With all the answers. Right. Because then I'm literally
you're
just reading.
You're listening and writing what he's telling you. on this printout. Yes.
And so that's actually the difference. So when you're taking notes, since you can't write everything, because I can type way faster than I can write, like
me
probably
too.
5 times faster. So if I was typing, I would just try to type almost the exact same thing that I heard as much as possible. But when it comes to writing, since you can't write everything, you have to compress what you're hearing, and so the act of that compression,
you're actually
is processing it because you have to understand what you're processing.
That makes sense.
So you can paraphrase or sketch. Some people like make sketches.
The sketch notes, yes, yes, we've talked about those before too.
Yeah. So like for you, Amber, whenever you're teaching kids about note taking, whenever you guys are going over, do you do like vocabulary? That was something I really liked in school, was vocabulary notes. I'm weird like that.
Note taking. Definitely, we take a lot of vocabulary notes, like key vocabulary, figurative language notes. And when we're reading something, we'll do some background information notes as well. But I mostly like to focus on like the key vocabulary building and stuff like that.
Yeah. Whenever y'all do vocabulary, is it just writing like the word and then equals and then maybe like 1 or 2 words, or do you go in and like really define the word?
What I usually do is define the word simply, which, like I guess would be the equals 1 or 2 words. And then I like to have them make it into a sentence.
Okay.
And I feel like writing that word and the definition down and then writing the sentence,
you have to
it
have
really like
comprehension.
helps them absorb the word and learn the words if you write it and put it in a sentence.
That makes sense. It's kind of like paraphrasing, but not paraphrasing that statement.
But it shows that you have comprehension. You have to have comprehension in order to make another sentence out of it other than the one that you just read. So, yeah.
So one of the things that I found that really made me realize, maybe this is why I like note-taking, is that handwriting actually slows down your nervous system. So it lowers your cognitive overload, and it creates a sense of grounding. So that's probably why some people also find it really enjoyable to take notes.
That is really interesting, especially if you think of it not in the terms of note taking, but in looking at it as like journaling.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Because I'm
that's
like,
why some people actually process things differently when they journal, because you actually have to write it down. So you end up paraphrasing these big thoughts, and big feelings into actual words.
Yeah, you're actually thinking them through. I've always been a big proponent of journaling and writing things out. They help me a whole lot, and I talk about that in my blog about coming to my realization of what my one little word was. That blog was all about how I came to my one little word through journaling about the different options that I had, and it really did that writing, not just thinking about those words, but writing out exactly what I thought about each word, and making notes about the meanings behind the words that I was looking at. That helped me process those thoughts and then come to the conclusion of what my word should be.
I like that. Yeah, this so like whenever you're journaling, it helps you because your body is also involved. So your brain is focusing on diverting some of that energy into like your hand, your motor coordination and stuff like that. So you're not putting all of your energy into like that emotion that might stress you out or like overstimulate you. And I thought that was really cool. So I know that's like, we're talking about handwriting and like remembering notes, but just in general, we're going over like just handwriting in general. So, it's not just about note taking, but I think my mind was thinking note taking because I'm really interested right now in, the annotating and stuff. And probably because that's one of the things I liked the most about school was taking the notes
Uh-huh.
in school. Like, when I'm not in school, I kind of feel like I need to be taking notes or something.
Uh-huh.
Like, I need to be writing
I
stuff
take
down.
notes all the time.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm always taking notes. And maybe that's the APN, like I need to have an APN with thoughts and
for those of you who don't know
and-
what an APN, we've discussed it before, but it's an all-purpose notebook.
Yeah.
That we just kind of jot whatever in. So,
yeah. And so I think, like, for me, that's that little bit of processing. I never really realized that, it sounds silly to have like a list of lists, but whenever it's bouncing around in my head, if I slow down and I take the time to write it down, it's almost like, it makes my brain just go, okay, we got to chill because we need to focus.
Right.
And we're going to write these thoughts down. And it's almost like I make a list and I never go back to my list. Like the bullet journals, always like, oh, I'm going to make a bullet journal and put all these lists and then reference them. I hardly ever go back to my lists.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Sometimes I do for reference, but
I go
most
back
of the
to my
time,
lists.
it's just me like trying to get some thoughts out of my head.
But I do
Yeah, I
a
don't.
lot of times I make lists. I'll just have thoughts rumbling around in my head, and so I will just go make some notes, make some lists. Take a scratch piece of paper and get that thought out of my head, and then I can think about other things and not have that still rattling around in my head. Whereas putting it on the notepad in my phone, I do use digital notes quite a bit on my phone. I use the notepad. But it doesn't really get the things out of my head. And I don't really process the things that are on those lists. Those lists are just placeholders to hold things, and I have to refer back to them all the time. So it's not the same as the list of action items that I have to work on today. It's more like a list of here's the different ways to get into our different social media accounts, or here's the different steps I need to do every week when I work on the podcast or whatever. Some of that stuff I don't have to look back at anymore, but at first, when I first started doing those routines, I would go back and look at those. I had to make that list so that I would know what I was doing or whatever, But I don't know. The digital note taking just it's not the same. So
for me, that's more of reference. And so that's kind of one of the key concepts with digital note taking is that it is really for storage.
right.
Digital notes are external storage.
Yes.
Handwritten notes become internal memory.
Right.
So
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
the way I
writing
feel about
something
them.
down, it's helping you commit to what you want to remember.
Right.
Whereas just typing something down, it's for reference. So
Right.
that you can go back and
And I
review
can
it
go back
again
and check it again when
Yeah.
I need to. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
that's nice
basically what
because
I
then
do.
you can keep it organized.
Right.
So, but if you're just like, handwriting, and I'm not talking about taking notes like for something that's, for logical purposes, right? It's for an actual like task oriented thing, but just handwriting in general and like how it's good for you.
If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Well, that's true. But like linear, like there's different types of, ways that you can use your handwriting too. If you're talking about taking notes, that's what you're talking about is like linear notes, right? Something with structure and like a use for it. So you've got like bullet
I
points,
have lots of those.
outlines,
Yeah.
lists, right? And those are good for that step-by-step learning or this
And
is a
sometimes
process.
I put those in my bullet journal if I really want to commit them to memory.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And then there's sometimes, like a concept map. is helpful too. So that's whenever you're using like circles and arrows. Yes, and that's more
Amber.
of like organic note taking.
Right.
Right.
Meeting notes.
That's where you can connect ideas visually.
Right.
So you're just throwing them down on a piece of paper, and then you can come back and get the big picture thinking. Those are really good for creative projects.
Yeah.
We had talked about like Oxford notes. I feel like that one is obviously it's kind of like linear notes, but I feel like it's also concept mapping because, and I don't know, maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, Amber, about Oxford note taking is like when you don't know like what the outline is going to be, you know, obviously like an outline, you kind of have the framework.
You know the structure. Yeah.
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 And so if you don't know what the framework is, Oxford note taking is nice because you just write the theme down on one side and then make additional commentary on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that way you can come back, and if you need to expand on it, you can build onto that on another page, or you can actually turn it into outlining notes later.
Right.
But is there any other note taking that I missed? Or handwriting? I mean, there's kind of a little bit of note taking and handwriting. Obviously, journaling itself is not the same as note taking, but kind of is note taking.
I mean, it really depends.
I mean, if you think about like journaling, most people write a paragraph form journaling, right? Some
Right.
people literally
But
go,
unless
"Dear
they're
diary," right?
they're doing free association, in which they're just writing thoughts down as they come to their head, and
Right,
they're not.
but then sometimes it literally is in a paragraph form.
Yeah, it could be.
So have you talked about like charting, like as far as like bubble mapping and stuff like that?
Concept note. I barely just scratched on that with the
Okay,
circles
yeah, so,
and branches and arrows.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, really, I think you like pretty much touched all the different types of note taking then.
Yeah.
That's very common, like the bubble mapping, the charting, outlines, Cornell method, sketch notes,
Oh,
sentence
I
notes.
called it Oxford, didn't I? It's Cornell, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, when you were asking me about Oxford, I like Googled it really quickly, and I was getting like all of these types of notebooks.
Oh, yeah. Those are Oxford notebooks. Yeah.
So Cornell notes.
Cornell notes. There we go.
I mean, same part of the world, right?
No.
But
Oxford is in England. Cornell is in New York.
Isn't Cornell in England also?
No, it's in New York.
Yeah. Cornell
I was thinking of
University.
like the town.
Oh, there may be a Cornell there. I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know.
But the college is in New York, so.
But after, thinking about the handwriting and how it engages more of your brain, I'm really thinking about going back to handwriting my notes. This summer, I started using my iPad. I found a journaling app. It's like a diary, basically.
Right.
Because a long time ago, my computer application on my OS 7 Apple.
Long time ago.
Long time ago, before OS 10, right?
Yes.
So, on the disc, I had a hard disk that I put in, and it had a journal, and I could make a journal entry and save it to the disk, right? And I liked that because it had it was dated. It had the little timestamp.
You could search.
Yeah, and you could search. And I felt like it was the coolest little database. And then they came out with the online journaling that Amber and I both used right when we were like freshmen in college. We had already had pretty, well-built online journals that website kind of died, but I did enjoy that because I felt like that was like a little piece of my
Zanga.
Zanga
It was called
diary.
Zanga.
But here's the
Before that, it
problem.
was Open Diary.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Here's the problem
And then
with
blogging
those that
became a
I
thing.
found is that as those technologies,
Pre-blogging.
none of that technology lives forever.
Yeah, and those
And as
diaries are gone.
they're gone.
I can't even find them.
Yeah. So unless you print it out before it goes away,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Luckily, I was able to like download. Well, what really got me off of Open Diary was that like for a long time, like for a year, or I did Open Diary for a few years actually, and then like somebody hacked their system and everybody lost like a year's worth of their diary
Oh
entries.
no.
And I hadn't backed any of that up. Before that, I had been regularly backing up, but then I don't know what happened, and I didn't, and I lost like a year of diary entries, and it just made me not want to do it
Yeah.
anymore because I had like a lot of good stuff that I had written down, and I really wish that I had backed it up or saved it or printed it out.
Well, and the thing too that I feel like it wasn't as authentic because it was published online. Mine was it was literally open, so anybody could read it if they were like friends with me or whatever. And so I feel like that one was more of like a masked diary of what I wanted other people to see.
Right.
And so it was
Mine wasn't. I wrote like all my thoughts and feelings because
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard whenever you want to write all your thoughts and feelings about your friends, but your friends read it. So,
oh, see, I didn't
yeah.
have friends. I had like you and another friend read mine, and it was like I liked the anonymity of it, where I could go and write my thoughts and feelings and put them out there in the world, and people I didn't know could comment on it. So I didn't really give it to my friends.
Yeah. And like my whole circle of friends
Yeah.
did it. So it was kind of like, I don't know. It literally, I feel like that started like the online blogging.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because it's
stuff
almost like
that.
a lot of the blogs that you read now are kind of like people's little diaries, but they're public.
Yeah.
And
in
so,
some ways,
yeah. And I liked it because I liked that process of decompressing or exposing my day or whatever. But it was different, right? It wasn't as authentic. So I opted now for the one on my tablet because I wanted to have a little diary. But I sit there and I get like that blank page syndrome. And I'm still kind of like stuck in that, I don't know what to write, you know? So I started off just typing out little phrases of, you know, like I did this, I did that, you know, I feel very like, see Dick and Jane run, you know, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But there's just something about typing it that's different. I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't get as deep when I type. And so I'm curious, going back to the handwriting, I've been making these little journal things, and I've been making them more for like the craft purposes, but now I want to get to like the point where I can make one and then use it
Right.
and actually journal in it, because I have found myself the first time I used one of those journals, we did like a little burn book about a year ago, and I found myself knowing that no one else was going to read it and that I didn't ever have to go back and look at it ever again.
And so you're more free to
some of the
write
pages
things.
were really small, so I could say something very poignant without like having this feeling like, well, I have a whole page, I have to deep dive. I just scratched the surface but said what I really wanted to say, and then I moved on. And then you know, this book was full of text. I wished I had had more time so that I could scribble a little bit more on it.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what I'm wanting to do you know, this year, is potentially explore more of the handwriting of just like journaling and venting and vetting out thoughts and ideas and stuff without being so like, well, this is my note-taking spiral and this is my scrapbook, and I can't have these two things, you know, cross hairs, because, you know, my scrapbook is like front facing for the whole world to see.
But you know what? I've done some pretty revealing stories, journaling, even in my scrapbook.
Yeah.
Some very personal stories
Yeah.
that I put in my scrapbook, and I just decided
It is what
it is what it
If
is.
people
And
don't like it, that's
they
their
don't.
problem.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So, I did one time. I don't remember. It was part of Layout a Day one time, but I did a whole story. The title of the page is "What I Did for Love," and it was talking about how I journaled about how I um, moved to Dallas, even against my better judgment, because my husband thought it would be a good move for us. And, you know, it, I was kind of backed into a corner and told I'm moving. So you're either moving with me or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not always a pretty story, but it was honest.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was an honest story that needed to be told in my scrapbook, how I
Mhm.
came to be where I'm at.
Mhm.
Now, going back, I did not write that. Well, I did write that by hand. I wrote it by hand,
Then you turn around
and then I turned
typed
around
it.
and typed it for my
Yeah.
scrapbook. But and I do that a lot for my journaling of that sort. Um, but yeah, I mean, I also keep a journal, a diary, whatever you want to call it. I don't write in it every day. I write in it when I feel the need to write in it. And sometimes I feel the need to write in it and I don't have time to write in it. But I usually write in it when I have something I need to say, something that I'm trying to think how to word it. Something like there's a big topic I've been brooding over, or
Yeah.
a thought that
Yeah.
has been running through my head all day, and sometimes I will come up with a prompt for myself, and I will go into my notepad and make a list of that note.
Mhm.
And then when I finally get to go to bed, that prompt will be my jumping off point
Yeah.
for when I start my journaling. And sometimes those journalings are a half a page long, and then I start the next day right below it. Or sometimes it's, multiple pages long entries. So it just varies based on, the topic that I'm discussing.
Mhm.
And sometimes it rambles, all over the place. It starts as one thing and ends as something else. Um, it's honest, and it's as I see things as they are. So
Yeah. So that's even, further evidence that, at nighttime, if you're doing that, like before you go to bed, if something's, been on your mind all day and you get to that point in the day where you're handwriting, if it lowers your cognitive, overload, then that means it would help you fall asleep.
it does.
better.
It absolutely does help me. Because I get that stuff off of my chest or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
and it doesn't make the problem go away. And I
No.
think that's the problem too. Is sometimes we think like, oh, if I journal something, like I'm gonna magically like work out the problem, and then I'm gonna feel better about it. Sometimes we feel even more passionately about something.
Well,
because
yeah,
we
but
uncover
sometimes
truths.
we uncover truths, but it gives us something else to explore.
To explore,
and sometimes that understanding comes after many entries of
Yeah.
touching on that same topic over and over again.
Yeah.
So, sometimes that one topic leads to another topic, and then it leads to another. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, I like journaling. Like I said, I wish I had more time to journal, because sometimes I have things I want to talk about and I don't have the time to get to it, but when I get to it, it's always very rewarding for me.
Yeah. I think, didn't we have an episode a while back, Amber, where we talked about handwriting analysis?
Yes, we did. That was
Yes,
part
we
of
did when we
Richard.
talked about Richard Webster.
Oh,
we
yeah,
talked
that
about
wasn't too
Yeah.
long
handwriting
ago.
analysis.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me want to go back and use my journaling and my handwriting analysis on my journaling to
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
decode it further.
Oh, mine's terrible. Sometimes I'll be writing and it looks great for a while, and then as I write more and more, it just devolves into chicken scratch.
Well, your hand gets tired.
It
the more
does,
that
and
you write.
and the
does.
thoughts start coming faster and faster, and you start
That's
writing
the
faster
problem
and
that I
faster.
have, and I always think, well, if I just type it, I could do it better. Or I've even gotten to where, I just want that stream of consciousness where I can talk something out, because they even say that talking things out
Mm-hmm.
can also help you. So it's interesting. Handwriting makes you slow down, but I think talking something out helps you speed it up and helps you arrive at those thoughts you haven't
Right.
uncovered yet faster. And so it's almost like you kind of want to have a little bit of
A bit of
both.
both, yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I do some of those both. I mean, that my phone is very handy, and I will often open up my notepad on my phone and just dictate blah blah blah. And as I mentioned before, um, when in annotating anatomy of an epidemic, I started annotating in the book with highlights and sticky notes and all that stuff. But when it came time to do the episode, I knew that I couldn't just sit here and flip to each annotation in the book. There's just too much. So what I did was I sat here with the book and I dictated to my phone on the notepad the highlights of the notes as I just kind of skimmed through the book, and then let it turn it into a series of notes that further annotated the annotations that I took.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because that was really the only way that I could get everything down to a concise discussion. And even so, that first recording was almost 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to this year. One of my goals this year is to journal more, have less restrictions on myself as far as what journaling is and how I journal and where I journal, because I've been really like, I don't know, maybe it's my OCD. You can write these kind of notes in this book and these kind of notes in that book. And I always have like thoughts, and then I'm like, oh, I want to write it down, but the book I want to write it down in isn't in front of me. I don't know why I do that. Maybe that's the OCD perfectionism of just trying to like compartmentalize.
I do
things.
that too, because and I think with
See,
mine,
I just do it all in my APN.
if I do it all in my APN, then it's harder for me to find things when I need them. So I
Right.
do keep things separated.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, like my journal that I write in at night is next to my bed.
Yeah.
And I only want to write those things there as a permanent place to store them.
Yeah.
But
It's
if I
just
have a thought,
overwhelming
well,
having so many journals and notebooks writing things down.
well, if I have a thought and I don't have the one that I want it to write in, like I said, I will put it, I will, dictate it into my phone or something as a placeholder so that when I get to bed, I can journal it.
Yeah.
But I do have lots of different note things. I have note things about my tarot. I have note things about work. I have note things about my journaling, my household stuff. I have a whole separate notebook for podcast notes. If I don't, I can't find anything. I have to be organized.
I know, and see, that's one of the things that I found myself doing is I have my notes for the podcast, but oftentimes I get super inspired by things. So what ends up happening is when we're here and my brain is buzzing and I get all these ideas, I flip to like the back because I want to keep all of my podcast notes in order. Each episode gets its own
I
page.
do that also.
And
Yes.
then what ends up happening is I have all these pages in the back where I think of other things and like what, like our book theme. It's in here. I have to come here and be like, what book are we doing next? So, that I want to be able to like make myself less like constricted.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Handwriting. I'm gonna do it more. I'm gonna journal more.
Cool.
Be less dependent on my devices and my microphones.
Do it by hand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, since I don't have a desk to sit at with 10 notebooks, I'm just going to keep my one notebook
Yeah.
and put it next to my bed at night and then carry it in my backpack and just have
It
one
goes
notebook.
with you everywhere you go. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
See,
me.
That's the other reason, because I carry like a tiny little purse. There is no notebook that would fit in my tiny little purse, so so I never have the notebook with me. So.
I never leave the house. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
Well, what are we talking about next week?
so next week is Amber again.
And we're talking about the National Counseling.
School counseling.
Yeah, National School Counseling Week
Awesome.
Very cool.
coming up.
Very cool. Yeah, we swapped. Amber and I swapped weeks so that we could do that on the appropriate week. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. And
Yeah. So we want to thank you for stopping by and always checking in with us every week on Wednesdays when the new episode launches. Don't forget to hit us up on our Facebook, MMC Chat, or modernmusings.net for additional content. I know that we always have a Heard It on the podcast where you can see those additional links for the previously recorded podcast that we mentioned. If you're interested in checking it out, we're currently reviewing Hatchet with annotation.
yes.
And Cindy just went over some of the hot topics of Anatomy of an Epidemic, a book, and I believe we're going to circle back in another
Yes.
episode with further discussion
Yes.
on that. So be sure to come back next week and again from then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.